Hello, my name is Mike Baldwin and I've been designing gardens for over 36 years, and we're going to have a look at a little project I did recently over in Nottingham. You'll see how we managed to make the garden more private and sort of enclosed. We also were able to utilize some of the existing features like hedges to show off plants, and there were also areas of dry shade that we had to make more interesting. Plus, of course, adding bold foliage plants. We also used a turf lifter and various other things to help. So let's take a look and see how the garden was designed and how it progressed.
So in this garden, they've got a lovely little dining out area. The problem is that there's a road that passes just at the front, and so it's not very private. Also, there's a big sycamore you can see in the picture, and this hasn't got any planting underneath it, and it's quite an area of dry shade. So one of the things we need to do in the design is to link up this area, make it more private. Where the sycamore is, introduce a lot of plants which like that dry shade. And as we move through the garden, what we're going to do is to link the decked area to the rest of the garden so it doesn't just jut out. It all looks seamless and part of the overall design. We can also introduce some lovely bold foliage plants on the front to make it more interesting against the skyline. So let's have a look at the design we've come up with. So you can see in the design that we've got this kind of nice sort of almost like bow shape which links the whole garden together. We've got a nice little path going off to the left through the woodland to create another way to go around the garden, and we can introduce dry shade plants in this area. We've also screened the car parking area. Also blocks the views from the front where the road goes past the gate down a bank which would look into the garden. Over to the right, we've created this lovely little meandering path to the lawn, and where you've got an existing hedge, we've introduced lots of plants to contrast against that. So hopefully we've created a nice sort of area that's all linked up. And we've also added some lovely bold foliage plants to make it even more interesting. We've also maximised the microclimate, so where it's sunny we've used some really lovely dry Mediterranean plants, and where there's dry shade we've gone for plants obviously that suit that environment. Let's take a look at the construction of the garden and how it looked.
So here we are today, and we're over in Nottingham. We're doing a little scheme, just doing a little sort of marking out plan. And basically we've run a tape down the middle and we're taking offsets off it. We've put the pegs in and now we're spray painting it out to get that shape. So we're just going to do a bit of spray painting and well, where to go? So yeah, pick up the curve. Round we go. Keeping it low to the ground, looking at where the next peg is to get the curve right. Gonna come just inside that one. And what we're going to do, we're going to blend this in. Gonna pick up that curve there, and that's it. And then we'll have a look at the pathway. So we've got a path going off, and that's going to split those two areas, just make it a bit more interesting. You come in through a meandering path. Meandering paths are brilliant to create that element of surprise. So that's what we're doing there. So we're going to get the turf lifter out and we'll get some lifting. Okay, real, that's fab that. It's all marked out, and now we've got to lift the turf. I've got this turf lifter on hire, and we'll just run through it just so you know what to do when you're lifting. So it's a Honda engine. So on the Honda engine you've got the switch on the front, so on, off, nice and straightforward. You've got your fuel, so your fuel wants to be on, the bottom one wants to be that way, follow the arrow. And when you start it the first time you'll need the choke on. I've already started this, you pull it once or twice, it fires up, then you want the choke off, and that starts it. You want your tortoise and hare set to about the middle, and that should be fine for that. So that's sort of the starting up. And if you want to switch it off, you just switch it off there. You just flick that switch up. That will cut it, okay? Onto the machine itself. the cutters, you've got this big lever on the front, and what you're going to do is that puts the lever so it'll be cutting the turf. Up here it'll be above the turf, and then the other thing you've got is you've got an in there which drives the back wheels, so that helps to push it along. A lot of these things are a bit clunky, and there's usually a few little tricks that you have to do. Occasionally I have to put my foot on that just to get it going and in. You can set the depth on this one. If you're only skimming, you could set the depth so you're just skimming a very, very tiny bit. Okay, so that's where you set your depth. Obviously if you've got ear defenders or plugs, because it'll be just about 85 decibels, it's about that. This one is your dead man's handle, so if you need to cut it quickly, you can switch off here. Just switch either side and it will cut the engine. So you have got a dead man's handle on the top as well. So that's for that one. That's the best one. If you hit a wasp nest or whatever you do, that would be good for that one. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll start it up and we're just gonna run it down. Mark's already cut the turf that way, so we're going to take out small pieces, not going for long pieces with it. I know normally you might have a meter, but we're going to go for quite short pieces, easier to handle and maneuver around. Okay, so it's on. Okay, that's up. Just put it out of gear. Okay, and fuel's on. Start it up. Drop that down. Drop that down. Let it get a bit of, let it build up. It builds up. But when it's got a bit of revs on, then it can drop it in. Sometimes you have to do that a couple of times. Okay. And then hopefully it will drive. It will take a while because it's a bit of a, build up a bit of strength. There you go. Area, prepare it ready for plants. Okay, and that's it, just up and down. It will follow a curve, so you can do a curve. That'll work quite well. I'll show you that on the, as I come back round. I'll take it round the curve so you can see it. More than the tyre, so just a tyre overlap.
So what we got, we're just going to have a look at this site here, and we're trying to just improve the whole feel of the place. What we've got is a sitting area which at the moment is very open, it's not very private, and we've got a hedge as a backdrop there, so we're going to use some hammer malice and that which will be displayed against the backdrop. We're going to try and create an enclosed area so that there'll be a lot more privacy for the people here to sit out and enjoy this lovely space. So that's the plan for today. We're going to use some nice big palms, some Trachycarpus as well, to try and make that nice against the sort of, eventually it'll be against the skyline, but to create a nice sort of feature here on the front as well. We've got the Jacques Montier we've put in, just will match the Bachelor on the right hand side, and well, we'll see how it looks at the end of the day. So here we go, we've got the plants laid out as best we can. We've got some, you can see the Trachycarpus there, just right of the birch. We've got a few rhodies. Gonna have to improve the soil a little bit there because there's, I can see a Pyrrhus to the right showing a little bit of chlorosis, so we've got to get a little bit of flowers of sulfur, chips of sulfur, and a bit of organic matter, a little bit more acidic in there. But as we come round, you can see a few featured plants. There's a Magnolia stellata in the middle of that. There's some Hamamelis behind, so the idea is that will show up against that background of the privet. Slightly drier area here, so we've got lavenders, we've got cistus, there's Perovskia, phormiums, so it's a little bit more sort of Mediterranean in the planting. And even on the frontier we've got the rosemary, prostrate rosemary, but a real foliage effect over here for this little woodland walk. So the branches I took off the hawthorn, I'm just forming that into a bit of a pathway, and then that's very much a foliage, and the cyclamen will be distributed underneath that to add interest, and then we'll get the bark mulch on. So here we go, this is the garden. It's had a few weeks now, we're sort of now a couple of months to settle in really. And we got the Duches there are settling in nicely. Sarcococca and Begonia and Choisya. We've got some Liriop and Choisya, Aztec Pearl there, DeWittiana and Aztec Pearl. So this seems to be all good through the winter. Phormium's looking good, even the lavender and Convolvulus neorum. On the other side we've had some nice flowering Hamamelis. We've got some Mahonias that are flowered. We've got a Magnolia stellata coming into flower. And then at the back we've got Elaeagnus, and there's one or two corners at the very back there. So that's all good. Just planted up some Photinia. So this is Photinia Cara Rouge, and looking good. We've got one of those either side there, which will be having those beautiful bractea-like leaves for quite a while. And then in here into the next border we've got the phormiums, lavender, salvia, Officinalis purpurea settling in well. Then we go into the more green area with Fatsias, Cornus controversa variegata, and then a real kind of planting. You can see the cyclamen coum, a real planting for shade. Cyclamen coum, Sarcococca, Hellebores, Liriop, Blechnums, all providing a really nice colour. Some Ruscus at the back there as well. So they've settled in well. The Betula Jacquemontia is doing fine, and the Trachycarpus have come through the worst part of the winter there, and the rhododendrons. And on the next terrace we've got the beech hedge, azaleas, rhodies, ferns and junipers.
Well, I hope you got something out of that garden design, and how to use the turf lifter, and just how to make spaces a little bit more interesting and link the garden up. So that just about wraps this little video up, and if you enjoyed it, just hit the subscribe and like button, and we'll see you soon for more of a hard landscape construction project that I've recently done.